Summer is here. Well, maybe not really. This is Evan Bland with Tom Shatel and the Pick Six podcast. Sam McEwen is out this week. The World-Herald is in a bit of a transition this week, moving buildings. So Sam is doing some sports editory things and leaving things, very courageously on his part in the hands of Tom and me. Tom, welcome back from vacation.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be back, although it's not good to be back in the cold, but that was very much a shock when we got back. But we're here. It's always football season, and it's still basketball season, and somehow, I'm ready to go.
Nebraska basketball on Wednesday night, obviously had a tough one against Rutgers. They lose in overtime, 87-82. We'll touch on that. We'll talk a little Dylan Raiola and the Polynesian Bowl, which is coming up Friday night at 8 o'clock Central. That's going to be one Nebraska fans will be dialed in on. But Tom, I want to start with this. It's been a couple of days now since news came that Nebraska finally hired that piece that had been talked about for a long time. Matt Rule touched on it in December, and then again didn't want to talk about it at his signing day press conference later that month. But they hired quarterbacks coach Glenn Thomas. He was an offensive assistant with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has a history as an offensive coordinator. He's worked with Matt Rule in the past. What was your impression? First, that Nebraska made that move in general, and then anything specific to your impressions of Glenn Thomas.
Yeah, I thought it was probably evident when Rule didn't deny that would happen. I think it was the signing day press conference was asked about adding a quarterback coach or another offensive assistant, and he said, "I'm not ready to talk about that now." So I thought we kind of knew that was coming, and I think it it was necessary. I think they had to do it. Because I think Dylan Raiola requires urgency. I think right now, as long as he's in the house, and he may be in the house for a long time, but you got to surround him with not only receivers and offensive linemen and the people who can help him win or do his job, but you've also got to get somebody who's going to coach him, and that's never been Marcus Satterfield's the forte is the quarterbacks. He came here as a tight ends coach, and he had so much on his plate last year, the injuries and trying to get offense going, that I don't think he really had time to do a lot of that. So this is a great move. I don't know much about Glenn Thomas, but your fine story got me going. So I'm learning all the time, and I think the fact that he's got a background with Rule, that's one thing about Rule is he brings in guys that he knows, and one of my first thoughts was, I wonder how Thomas is going to work with Satterfield. Well, they have worked together, so because all of a sudden you got another chef in the kitchen, and there's just going to be certain things that Rayola wants to run, and certain plays he likes, and how do you get everybody? And I think Thomas will be probably kind of a spokesman for him, and what does Satterfield want to call, and how do they all get together? And then you got Rule, who has the final word. How does it all work? Well, they've all worked together, so that's a great start. So I feel like that's going to be sort of a dynamic next year. Is when I guess I'm going to guess you'll probably have Thomas on the sideline, so when Rayola comes out the field, he can talk to him immediately, and maybe Satterfield's up in the booth. I guess I'm not sure how that'll work, but I think the communication will be very important next year.
Yeah, your urgency thing I think is right on because, like you said, Tom, the learning curve is going to be pretty short. I mean, 18 and 2019, Marcus Satterfield, Glenn Thomas were on the same Baylor staff under Matt Rule, and things were going pretty well with what
Yeah.
they were doing offensively. So they have similar ideas of terminology. And like that's what you need, to your point. Like you have a five-star quarterback in the mix. You have another Elite 11 guy in Daniel Kalen in the mix. This is not a situation where you need these guys to take a year to kind of feel each other out and warm up and go. Like they can go because they have that history to fall back on for sure. And the room is interesting too, don't you think? Like this is not a year ago. Like you think back a year ago, at this moment, Nebraska had three quarterbacks who had started Power Five games. Casey Thompson was still here. Logan Smothers was still here. They had brought in Jeff Sims, who had been a starter at Georgia Tech. So like it's a much different situation here now where your two of your three scholarship guys are true freshmen. Your other one in Heinrich Harburg started 8 games last year, but his skill set is quite a bit different than those guys. And I think when you look at Thomas's history working in the NFL in pro style offenses, particularly with Matt Ryan in Atlanta, and then in college in more spread attacks, like his track record would tell you that like he's not married to a certain scheme or system, but trying to find what works best for each of these guys. And don't you think like the challenge of this room as it's laid out is pretty unique for someone to come into and kind of start over?
Yeah. It's gonna be fascinating. And but I like that they're all, this Thomas is starting uh here. He's starting fresh. Quarterbacks are starting fresh. Nobody's really got a lot of I guess preconceived notions or habits, or nobody's they're all kind of starting from ground one. So I think it's and as far as the offense, I mean, the man gave us the plan. He said this the 49ers is the blueprint. So Saturday night, every time the Niners are on TV, watch that offense. And I still go back to Dylan Raiola, all eyes will be on him. And but I still am intrigued by that. I really think Carter Nelson is going to be the guy to keep an eye on. What are they going to do with him? They made him, Rule made him sound like sort of that guy. He's part Kittle, but maybe he's also McCaffrey. Maybe he's Debo. He's everywhere, and I'm really intrigued by that. And it's smart. Because it's a good offense, and when you have the so-called positionless players, that maybe as a defense you don't know what's coming, but this is what kids want to run, and I'm fascinated to watch it. As always, you can't have an offense without an offensive line, so we'll see how that develops. It's got to be better. I think it will be. So, yeah, it's when does spring football start? I'm ready to go.
Yeah, late March, probably. We still have a little bit of time. A lot of Nebraska's early enrollees were on campus this week, getting settled in. Classes at UNL start on the 22nd, so that's coming right up. And then it's an off season, and it's development time, right? Now it's time for mat drills. It's time for weight training. I know Matt Rule said specific to the offensive line, this would be a critical stretch just to gain some of that strength and to
Yeah.
develop those guys. This is when that happens behind the scene. One other thing on Thomas I thought was interesting, Tom, was that he's coming not just as the quarterback's coach, and that was kind of speculated for quite a while. But when Nebraska announced it yesterday, they also gave him the title co-offensive coordinator. Does that, and we'll talk to Rule at some point about what that means, and maybe there's sort of a passing game element to that potentially, or there's an area maybe where he has some expertise or additional say. But in your experience, Tom, is that how much do you read into that title as Marcus Satterfield continues to call plays? Is this more of a a title thing as it relates to maybe potential salary, or does this signify something greater with what Nebraska wants to do on offense, do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. And generally that would really worry me. That would be a red flag. Those things don't work very often when nobody knows who's in charge of what. You have too many coordinators and too many people with titles. Um, it's going to be very specific and ironed out. And but Matt Rule's a guy with his hand on everything, and I'm gonna guess he's not just gonna throw titles around and then go off and watch something else. He's gonna be right in the middle of it. So, and he knows all these guys, and they all know each other. My guess is that it'll be fine. It's all defined. It's all worked, ahead of time. Everybody knows what they're doing. But yeah, these things generally are cause more problems than not. But um, the fewer the titles, probably the more people involved, the better. Usually, um, Tom Osborne called plays. He was the offensive coordinator. He was the quarterback coach. Eventually, they brought in Turner Gill to be the quarterback coach. There was still one coordinator, and so generally, that was the case with Bill Callahan for whatever that was worth. Had a coordinator, but he was kind of the guy. I mean, I just think, um, you know, after a game, we'll be wondering did Satterfield call the play, or was Thomas involved in that, or how did that work? I'm sure it'll all be explained to us in spring, but I'm going to guess Satterfield will still call plays. He's a passing guy, right? That's what Rules told us. He likes to throw. He likes to throw it downfield. So um, I'm gonna guess this is without really talking to anybody about this yet. This was a title thing, but of course we'll be speculating. Maybe things don't work out great next year. Maybe this is the future. And then you've got this whole Daniel Holgerson thing. I'm under the impression that that's not over yet. That he could still come in as an offensive analyst, and what a great hire that would be. Uh, Here's a guy that's an offensive coordinator and a quarterback guy. So you bring him in, and man, those meetings will be fun. There'll be a real think tank. But I just the only thing I really know about Thomas Evan is that Mike Tomlin hired him, so he
Yeah.
must be a ball coach. He must be a really really good coach if Mike
Mm.
Tomlin wanted him. So um, I'm not sure what he did with the Steelers specifically. Um, I wouldn't take credit for the quarterback play necessarily. I wouldn't want to be around that, but um, I, I think that yeah, again, if he's the Steelers staff, he's good.
Right, for sure. And the Holgerson thing, to me, Tom, suggests that they're really trying to consider all ideas with what this offense could be next year, right? Because like when his name came up a couple of weeks ago, it didn't strike me as a fit for offensive coordinator just because of his background. Daniel Holgerson came coming from the Mike Leach
Yeah,
tree of air raid offenses, and that, as Matt Rule has articulated, that is not what Nebraska is looking for. They're looking for sort of the pro style Michigan mold slash San Francisco positionless offense thing. So to me, his the dialogue that they have with him suggests that they're considering all sorts of things and trying to open things up. And the fact that Glenn Thomas has the co-OC title kind of gives off similar vibes to me because, again, he has done this before. He coordinated the offense at Arizona State a couple of years ago. He was the co-OC at Baylor and at Temple under Matt Rule. He's worked with Matt Ryan with the Atlanta Falcons and pro style systems. He's worked in up tempo schemes as well. And so like it strikes me as a guy who has a wide breadth of experience, a lot of different levels, can adjust to what talents are on his roster. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously everyone knows Nebraska's offense last year stunk and statistically was the worst it's been since what, 1968. And so you have to figure out a way to be more creative. And they've upgraded the talent at that position. And now I think you're seeing them um, increase sort of that circle of trust to include some guys who have some different experiences. So we'll see how that translates. So the other reason, of course, that the Glenn Thomas hire has so much attention is because of the guy that he's presumably going to be coaching as the starter down the road, Dylan Raiola. Tom, I don't think we've had the chance to talk with you much on this pod about Raiola and your impressions of him, but it's been more than a month now since it first started to come out that he was considering flipping from Georgia. Since then, he has been on campus as a recruiter for transfer portal visitors that have come in. He's been a key reason that they've landed receivers like Isaiah Nayor and Jamal Banks, Dante Dowdell. Dowdell was the guy who was jumping like 6 feet over Raiola at midfield at Memorial Stadium, and then he committed the day later. And now he's out of the Polynesian Bowl, and you probably saw a video of him throwing it 72 yards in the air. What's been your impression now, a month into the Dylan Raiola experience, about what he's all about maybe what the expectations of him are going to be, moving forward into 2024?
Yeah, I don't know what the expectations are going to be. I mean, I kind of know, but I don't really want to think about it right now. But um, he's going to start, and he's going to be good, and he's going to make throws maybe we haven't seen, and maybe make plays with his arm we haven't seen. But there's going to be some mistakes, and so we'll deal with that next fall. Right now, his job is he's sort of like an ambassador of the program, and what's really impressed me the most is I mean, yeah, a guy like him can attract other recruits, transfers, and but what's really impressed me at his age is that his willingness to go out and do that, and be the lead guy when the big dog um, wants to be the big dog, and not only isn't afraid of leadership, but is already showing it. Um, that's a hell of a deal. That's when you know you got something. When before he's even set foot on the field, he's already acting like a leader, and um, he's not afraid to be out in public, whether it's basketball or this deal or that deal. Um, but he's helping you recruit, and I really feel like that's and people are attracted to that. These guys see the X factor in him, and they want to be part of it. So uh, that has really impressed me. Is that knowing that okay, I said, well, he's probably the most important recruit since Frazier because of that impact. He not only raises the level, which we have not seen yet him do, but he attracts other people to the program, which Frazier did. The recruiting went way up. um, that'll probably I don't need to compare him to anybody in the next 4 years. He's the first Dylan Raiola, but I'm just impressed by his willingness and ability to embrace that role. And that tells me a lot of good things are coming.
He'll be playing Friday night in the Polynesian Bowl, probably extensively, throwing to Carter Nelson. It's going to be really interesting just to kind of get a sense of where he's at. I mean, we saw again the clip of him and the arm strength that he has throwing it downfield. And like, I'm thinking too, Tom, like, yeah, he hasn't been on campus yet. He hasn't participated in even spring ball to this point, but like his mere presence is going to change what Nebraska can do on offense. in my opinion, when he's out there. Because, I mean, you think back to last year, defenses are putting 8 men in the box, daring Nebraska to beat them over the top. And now, if you're a Big Ten defensive coordinator, you've probably seen the video of the dude who can throw it 70 yards downfield. So, like, just that threat alone, without any of the other stuff that he has with touch and intermediate routes and all that, like that to me, that changes what Nebraska is going to be able to do, and how defenses are going to approach it. And so, I still think his inclusion, can make Nebraska still a run heavy team, especially late in the game, as Matt Rule has said. But like, just the specter of a guy like that who can beat you with one play, who can cut a ball through the wind, in the Midwest with a tight spin, a guy who has sort of those intangible abilities as a leader, like that stuff makes sense, and it makes a difference. And I can't get past this idea that, like, even before he's won the job, like the reputation that he's bringing in can change, and open some things up for Nebraska in a way that they just didn't have the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I don't think we need a real fancy aerial show every game. We just need the guy to throw from here to here. Thread the needle, A to B, get the ball out when it needs to be out. Um, you know, don't yes, there will be interceptions. There will be times when the defense fools him. It's a learning process, and he's going to learn. And but I mean, I just think a quarterback is an amazing a quarterback who can execute and make the throws. Is just a wonderful thing when you don't have to worry every time they goes back to pass. Some old guy in the press box is saying, "Uh-oh," like, how many times did I do that last year? Uh-oh, you know, well, somebody's back to pass. It could be trouble. Now what? You won't hear me saying that probably very often, if at all. So, um, but when I look at Dylan Rail, I don't, I know the arm is there and the leadership is there, but I wonder about the offensive line, and I really hope that that's better. Give him a chance. You don't need him being on the run his first year too often. The other thing is, I hope they find a running back for him, and the kid from Oregon looks pretty good, because he can do a lot of different kind of runs and styles. I think the run game is so important next year because it's the first year. You don't want everything to be on those shoulders. You want to be able to have him hand off a lot, and I think Rule will do that. I think this first year, the run game will be very, very prevalent if they can run it. Now that will, in turn, he can help the running game, like you said. They dare you to pass, not anymore. You dare him to pass, there goes the guy down the sideline scoring a touchdown. So that'll open up the more for the run game. I think we'll see a balance, if there's a running back and an offensive line, and I really think that's going to be the key to his first year is taking a lot of responsibility off him and letting him ease into it. And so hopefully there's a run game coordinator and all those titles. Maybe it's Donovan Raiola, who I must say at the Allen Trophy dinner was very sharp with red Hawaiian flowered type of shirt under his suit. I was really thought that was he kind of stole the show there. But so I'm hoping this is the year of Raiola on the O line and the quarterback.
Oh, it's a great point that he has some senior guys around him. I mean, you think about that line, like Bryce Benhart's been there a long time. Ben Scott's a veteran at center. Micah Mazuka, who's coming in as a transfer, has been around the block. This is his last year. Turner Corcoran, Teddy Prohaska, like these are guys who are grizzled Big Ten or Power Five blockers. I mean, that's a great start. And then to your point, I mean, Dowdell's coming in, Isaiah Nayor and Jamal Banks, who's done it at Wake Forest. Like, it does feel like it doesn't have to be all on Raiola to make a difference. And you think back to the things that held back Nebraska last year. I mean, they didn't need their quarterback position to be Superman. They needed him to maybe not give the ball away 25 times the way that the position was credited with. They needed
Right.
a few more basic completions. And I think that's something Raiola can definitely bring. All right, so Nebraska basketball, we'll end with this. They once again fall short on the road, 87-82 in overtime at Rutgers. How much of this game did you watch, Tom? Nebraska gives up 25 offensive rebounds, 56 overall, long scoring droughts, and once again, just feels like a team that hasn't figured out how to handle success.
Yeah, they just drive you crazy. And just when you think you're, you know, like Godfather 3, I got out and they pulled me back in. The Purdue game, they pull you back in. Okay, here we go. And I wrote it last week. This can't be the highlight. How many times have we seen they've stormed the court before? That's not new. They've beaten KU, they've beaten Purdue, they've beaten all these people, they've beaten people before, and then they go back into their, it's like Superman goes back into Clark Kent, and Clark Kent can't get out of the phone booth because he's turning the ball over or he can't rebound. That was last night. Okay, Iowa. Okay, you go to Iowa. It's the game after. I give them a little pass on that one because Iowa is a lot. They're like Creighton. When they get rolling, it's you can't stop them. They really play offense well. It's at home, although there was nobody at the game. That was kind of a missed opportunity there. But okay, you didn't play great there. Okay, now we go to Rutgers, where you should win. If you're the who we think you are, you should win that game. And they had two 12-point leads last night, and they still figured out a way to lose that game. And it's just, oh, I rub my head because they got a break on the inbounds or on the last 3 seconds. Um, and they throw this lob pass. Where was that supposed to go? I mean, it's just like,
Off the
what are you
backboard.
doing? So I don't know what they're doing. What I know is they'll probably win their home games, the majority of them, then they have to now, but they got to start finding out a way to win on the road because the NCAA tournament, yeah, it's great to have okay, we beat Purdue, we got K-State on the road, but their non-conference schedule was really not good. It's I don't want to call it terrible. It was soft. It was Cupcake City, and so they have to overcome that in the NCAA committee room. Um, Beating Purdue's a good start to do that, but you got to do more. You got to go on the road. You got to be consistent. Um, I'm not saying losing to Rutgers offsets beating Purdue, but it almost does. It's like now you got to overcome that. Um, so it's frustrating because just when you think, boy, this is his best team. This looks different. These guys look tough. They can do all this stuff. They got rebounders. They've got defenders. It's just, and how do they go through these scoring droughts? I mean, get the ball to Tominaga and let him shoot until he makes one. He'll make one eventually. I just now you wonder about Javon Gary. How bad is he hurt? I guess we'll find out today. Um, I don't know, Evan. It's just it's frustrating. It just because there's a lot of season left, but we're back to not trusting this team again, and they'll tease us with maybe beating Wisconsin at home or Maryland at home or somebody like that. But then they'll go and they'll lose to somebody they shouldn't, and I don't know. It's I'm going to be on here later today with the special Tom's Press Box podcast with Lee Barfneck. And
Oh, all
we're going
right.
to be talking about Danny Nee. And, Danny Nee, for all we've said about him, and when I've said it all, the guy was the best coach they ever had. And he's going to get his due this weekend. And, yeah, the guy delivered. He took them to the tournament 4 years in a row. They won a lot of big games. They had some ups and downs, some crazy deals, but generally, he had the best talent in school history, and they were so much fun to watch. And never felt like they were gonna, that when they got in the tournament, they kind of fell off the cliff. Okay, but during the regular season, there was a lot there to like. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. Hopefully, that'll be up online later.
Yeah, that'll be good. And that does kick off a really interesting stretch. I mean, you have Danny Nee Appreciation Day for Northwestern Saturday afternoon. That's Northwestern, by the way, a team that also has beaten Purdue this season. So how does Nebraska bounce back from that? Then they have Ohio State at home on Tuesday before they go back on the road at Maryland. So another
Yeah,
interesting stretch where you can kind of find your footing, win a game or two at home. If you don't, man, it's going to be tough because, like you said, 13-5, 3-4 in the league, but a lot of those wins don't move the needle. They have the big ones with Kansas State and Michigan State. Maybe Indiana becomes a big one, and then it becomes what happens with Juwan Gary. I mean, he's kind of been the team's grown
yeah.
man, kind of the enforcer out there. So if he's out
He's
for an extended stretch or potentially the rest of the season, we don't know.
yeah.
What does that look like? So
Yeah,
it's
we'll find out today. I really, Saturday shapes up as an interesting deal because although all the old guys are back, Danny's on stage, but it's going to be a high of 2 degrees. And the skeptic in me says there might be some fans who decide I don't need to go out today, and I'm not gonna. And they're really mad about last night's loss. They're not going to go. I think a lot of people are going to go. They're going to be tough and get out there, and it's going to be a fun deal. But how does this team react to last night if they don't have Gary? The first thing that goes wrong, are they going to, oh, here we go again? They're going to fight through it. Uh, Northwestern's a tough opponent. They know how to win and they know how to close, and they won a big one last night from Maryland. It's a big game, kind of game that can get them back on track. But as I've said, you got to keep going, and it's what they really need is to go to Maryland and win. They need to go. They need to go get one like that. There aren't many games like that on the road left that would be an eye opener for the committee, but that'll be one of them. So they could come away with. They can win the next three. Okay, you pull me back again, but we'll see. It's hard following Nebraska basketball. It always has been.
I think we need Danny Nee to give a fiery pregame speech on Saturday, don't you think? He's still
Hide the
got some of that New
kids.
Yorker in him.
Hide the kids.
That's right. Yep, you might, well, yeah, have your 7 second dump button ready potentially.
Well, you want to hear the speech? You might have to go to Barry's. That was his signature move after a game. I'm going to write about this. I love this story. A couple of friends of mine told me the story that they used to try to beat Danny to Barry's after the game. And one time they thought we got him. We were in the car, we left at the end of the game. We left the Devaney Center. We're in the car. We parked close. We're driving to Barry's, and we hear him on we hear the post game show on the radio. We got him this time. He's still in there doing radio. We got him. They get to Barry's, they park, they get in there, and guess who's standing at the bar already? Me. He still beat him. I mean, how does he do it? So, they don't make him like that anymore. You don't see coaches at Barry's or anywhere like that anymore. But so he was so perfect. in the league with crazy kooky characters, Billy and Johnny and Norm and all the rest. He was right in the middle of it, and the games he waged with Norm, well, will live in my memory forever.
Hmm.
Standing in midcourt, screaming at him, screaming at each other, screaming on pleasantries, just wonderful, great, great stuff. So I'm looking forward to to my second podcast today. We'll tell stories, and hopefully it'll be up there later.
Well, we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to having Sam back next week as we complete the move, and he's back in the mix. Nebraska football is going to be on campus working. Nebraska basketball is going to be trying to get back on track. And we'll be back next week to talk about all of it. So for Tom,
If it ever gets warm, we're gonna have lunch. It's my treat.
yes, maybe we'll have to do that
I
this
got to
week.
take you guys. I won the pick six contest. So I'm the rule is the winner has to buy lunch.
Yeah, so
I
you
think
can
we're gonna
take
go
your
to
victory lap
Paisans. Have you ever been to Paisans?
it's been a while. But
Okay,
yeah,
I think we're gonna go to Paisans.
all
So
right. It's a deal.
I
For
see Coach
Tom,
Wurzel.
I'm Evan. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. Appreciate you all, Husker fans.